Good afternoon. My name's Steve. I'm going to be the host of today's Hangout. Joining us once again for our air quality Google Hangout today is Charlie Seifer, an air filtration expert with Campbell USA, a world leader in the development and production of air filters and clean air solutions. Today we're going to continue our series on hospital air filtration and tackle the subject of the critical nature of maintaining air filtration efficiency in hospitals. Very key subject. Hi, Charlie. How are you today?
Good morning, Steve. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Thank you. So, Charlie, what are some of the common airborne items of concern in the hospital environment?
Ironically, they're also the same concerns that we should have at home. Coughs, sneezing, and even talking can generate germs that are transferred between one and another. In fact, I mean, our parents taught us a wonderful thing that we were younger, where we put our arm over our mouth to catch the particles before they come out of our mouth and transfer to somebody else. But on any sneeze, you can be talking about hundreds of thousands of particles that can become airborne and remain viable for 7 or 8 feet away. For the most part, they drop out of the air, but some of them go to the HVAC system through the HVAC returns and can be recirculated through the building and unfortunately to other people if you didn't have air filtration there. Campbell publishes a healthcare brochure where there's a nice chart in there that talks specifically about coughing, sneezing, and talking and what can be involved there. Remembering that most of them fall out because of their mass. They have some weight to them, so they don't last too long in the air. The other thing about those particles is typically the particles of difficulty actually ride on the larger particles, 1 to 5 microns in size, because they're known as droplet nuclei. They're actually a moisture-based particle, and things like rhinovirus, influenza, etc., can ride along in those particles. Now, rhinovirus is only about 0.23 micron in size, very, very small. Viruses actually cannot be captured by filters. They're actually captured along with the other particles that they're riding along on. Influenza is 0.1 micron in size, so you can see why it's so difficult to stop the spread of influenza. Tuberculosis is another thing that we have to worry about, but that's actually a bacteria. That's not a virus, and that's relatively large. It's 1 to 5 microns in size, so it's pretty easily removed by air filtration. There's also a chart on the Campbell website that will give you 3 pages of information on common maladies associated with medical facilities and illnesses with people.
That's amazing. And I've heard that when it comes to sneezes, they travel at upwards of 60 miles an hour. So it's no surprise that that particulate could end up in an HVAC system, even if you're not right near the intake system. So, Charlie, how efficient are the air filters used in the hospitals that are designed to protect patients, employees, and visitors as well?
Well, normally the hospitals use 2 stages of filtration. The pre-filter, which is the one before the coil or the heating system, is typically a MERV-A. The final filters in critical care areas, normal sections of the hospital, are a MERV-14. In the office areas, they actually drop the efficiency down to a MERV-13. Now, the pre-filter, that MERV-A filter, is designed to remove bacteria, fungi, larger particles, and also protect the coil. Unfortunately, coils produce water, and that promotes the growth of fungi and bacteria, which are not good for us. MERV-14 filters are almost a HEPA filter. They're like 78% at 0.3 micron size particles. A HEPA filter is 99.99 at 0.3 micron size particles. To give you a relative idea of the differences in MERVs, a MERV-14 filter is 78%, a MERV-13 filter is only 48% at 0.3 microns. So there's quite a difference when you move from MERV to MERV through the system. You know, it's funny, the old numbers when we used to evaluate filters, the MERV-14 is what some people might know as a 95% filter. A MERV-13 was known as an 85% filter. And that really had to do with their corresponding efficiency on particles 1 micron in size. When ASHRAE came out with the new standard, they were more concerned about different particle ranges and so on, and that's where the MERV actually came from.
Right. You know, I've heard recently about these new standards, and so what's a MERV-A, and why is it critical consideration when applying air filters in hospitals?
Well, just like tires on a vehicle, not all air filters are manufactured the same. There are some tricks that manufacturers can do to kind of bypass the testing system and kind of fool the system into thinking that it's got, let's say, a MERV-14 efficiency.
Right.
When people manufacture filters or manufacturers manufacture filters, they extrude the fibers to an extremely small fiber diameter size, and that's rather expensive. Well, there's other ways to produce fibers and a rather coarse fiber, which would be larger, and they can enhance those fibers by putting an electric charge on them. But the unfortunate part is, once the dirt loads on the filter, it actually insulates the fiber from the airflow moving through, and the filters actually drop in efficiency over time. And although that might not be a large concern in warehouse space or a bowling alley or something along those lines, to me it's a critical consideration when you're talking about medical facilities where you want to basically remove everything from the air that you want to. What ASHRAE did in the last revision of the standard is they put in an optional section. So you can have the regular section of the standard testing the filter to get the MERV, the minimum efficiency reporting value, and then you can do an optional test that looks at the performance of that filter over its lifetime. Okay, so the optimum is if you have a MERV-14 filter, you also have a filter that has a MERV-A of 14. And what that would mean is you put the filter in today, it's going to be a MERV-14, and you look at that filter 6 months down the road, it's also going to be a MERV-14. You want it to continue performing. When you have the filters that use the coarse fibers or the electric charge, some of those filters can drop from MERV-14 all the way down to a MERV-7. That would be an unusual case, but in any case, the MERV-14 on coarse fiber filters, on average, probably drops at least 2 MERV sizes. And based upon what I mentioned earlier about the difference in the 0.3 micron size going from 78% down to 48, you can see how each MERV becomes very important if you're the one sitting in that hospital bed or in that operating suite.
And I'll bet that's especially true in hospitals when you change the air in a room so many times as opposed to an office or a home setting. I would imagine that would mean that that filter would degrade even more quickly than in a normal environment.
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, as you put more particles on the filter, they have a tendency to insulate that fiber. So in a commercial building, we don't worry about it as much. But if my wife worked in that commercial building, I'd certainly want the filter to maintain its efficiency there also. So MERV-A should be important to everybody.
Okay. What can I do to ensure I'm using the best facility for hospital visits if I need to go to a hospital?
Well, what I would do is check local websites. All hospitals now are required to report readmission rates. And what they mean by readmission rates is that you came out of the hospital with something that you did not go in with, or you became reinfected with a staph infection or something along those lines. The federal government was so concerned about the high readmission rate for hospitals that they now require hospitals to report those values. And there's many local websites out there that will look at your local hospital and actually publish the readmission rates. And you certainly want that number to be very low, like 1 or 2%. But there are hospitals out there that 10 to 20% readmission rate, which means they're probably doing something wrong. Either they're not creating sterile environments, cleaning up properly, but in many cases it involves the air filtration, either leaks around the filters or just filters that are performing improperly.
Wow, that's critical to know. Where can I find more information about hospital air filtration and all the information you were talking about? Where is that located?
Well, the Campfill has 3 access points for their websites. One is catalog.campfill.us, another one is campfill.us, and then a third one is the one that everybody's most familiar with probably is campfill.com. I had mentioned the healthcare brochure earlier, and that's got a wealth of information in there, really consolidated from many technical journals and white papers. And you may also want to go under technical papers there and pull out the 3 or 4 pages that relate to the sizes of common bacteria. If anything, it's interest-generating information. And then, of course, you can always contact your local Canfield distributor or local Canfield branch, and any of our people would be happy to get those materials to you.
Right, and I know you can reach those local representatives by looking at the Contact Us area on those websites.
Absolutely.
So that's really important. Great. Listen, thank you all for participating. We look forward to seeing you on our next Hangout when we cover more essential air filtration topics. Thanks again, Charlie. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve. Be well.
You too.